Please help me and subscribe this channel. Maybe shut down if there's no progress. My father wants me to work in a factory, which I never wanted. So if you enjoy this content, please subscribe and share. It truly means everything to me. What happens after we die? This is not just a philosophical question, it's a deeply personal one. From the moment we first understand death, we become aware of its inevitability. No one escapes it. And yet, we live as if we're eternal. Today, we journey into one of the most ancient, mystifying, and spiritually loaded questions of all time. What happens after the last breath? Some say we dissolve into nothingness. Others believe we merge with the infinite. Religions promise heaven or hell, reincarnation or resurrection. Scientists argue for neurological shutdown, but none can offer a definitive answer. This episode isn't about providing certainty. It's about embracing the uncertainty and examining what different traditions, thinkers, mystics, and modern minds have said about what lies beyond. Let us begin at the edge of life. The very moment of death. The heart stops. The brain flickers. Breath ceases. Modern science describes death as the irreversible cessation of all biological functions, but studies on near-death experiences suggest that consciousness might not immediately vanish. People across cultures report eerily similar experiences. A tunnel, a light, a presence, a feeling of peace. Are these hallucinations or glimpses of something real? Tibetan Buddhists believe that in the first moments after death, the soul enters a transitional state called Bardo, lasting up to 49 days. During this period, one's karmic imprints determine the next rebirth. In ancient Egypt, the soul was judged in the hall of Mayat. The heart was weighed against a feather. A life lived in truth led to paradise. A heart heavy with sin meant annihilation. Both traditions suggest that death is not the end, but a doorway. Let's explore how major religions have painted the afterlife. Hinduism views death as a part of a grand cycle. Birth, death, and rebirth. One's actions, or karma, shape their next incarnation. The ultimate goal, to escape this cycle and attain moksha. Buddhism echoes this but strips the idea of a permanent soul. It speaks of what reincarnates is not a fixed soul, but a stream of consciousness propelled by craving and karma. Christianity offers a more binary path, heaven or hell determined by faith and moral conduct. Yet even here, mystics like Meister Eckhart spoke of merging with the divine in a non-dualistic way that resembles Eastern thought. Islam teaches of akhiratha, afterlife where souls await judgment. The righteous are rewarded, the sinful punished. But Sufi mystics often describe death as a return to the beloved, a reunion rather than a reckoning. Judaism is more diverse. Some branches speak of Sheol, a shadowy underworld. Others describe bodily resurrection. Kabbalistic traditions suggest reincarnation and spiritual evolution. Every religion offers a map, but the terrain remains uncharted. Outside of religion, what a philosopher said. Socrates, facing his own death, said, "Death may be the greatest of all human blessings." He believed in the immortality of the soul. In Phaedo, he argues that true philosophers spend their lives preparing for death, freeing the soul from bodily desires. Epicurus, however, saw death as nothing to fear. When we exist, death is not, and when death exists, we are not. For him, death is the end of sensation, and thus, not to be feared. Heidegger urged us to live with Sein zum Tod bin. Death gives life, urgency, and meaning. We must confront it authentically. Camus found death absurd. If life ends, why live at all? Yet, he answered his own question. We must rebel against death by embracing life intensely, even if meaning is not guaranteed. Simone de Beauvoir observed that death becomes tragic when we realize its impact on others. We mourn not only the dead but what their absence creates in the lives of the living. Philosophy doesn't answer what happens after, but it teaches us how to live before. Science, grounded in materialism, holds a skeptical view of an afterlife. Neuroscience suggests that consciousness arises from brain activity. When the brain stops, so does the mind. But this is still a theory. No one can definitively explain consciousness. Quantum physicists like Roger Penrose have proposed that consciousness may have quantum components that could survive death. It's speculative but intriguing. And researchers like Dr. Raymond Moody and Dr. Sampania have compiled thousands of near-death reports. Patterns emerge: floating sensations, meetings with deceased relatives, a life review, but skeptics argue these are brain-generated illusions. Still, science has no final say. It explains how the body dies, not what happens to the self. Mystics across traditions speak in poetry, not propositions. Rumi, the Sufi poet, wrote, "Don't grieve. Anything you lose comes round in another form." Mystics describe death not as an end but a return to source, to God, to self. In Advaita Vedanta, the soul is like a drop dissolving into the ocean of consciousness. The ego dies, but the true self Atman was never born and never dies. Gnostics believed the soul was trapped in the material world and death was a liberation from the prison of flesh. Theosophy, Kundalini Yoga, Kabbalah, and even psychedelic mysticism from DMT experiences to ayahuasca journeys all suggest layers beyond layers of consciousness, realms that open up when the veil of the body is lifted. These aren't mere beliefs. They are experiences reported across ages and cultures. Why we fear death. To understand death, we must understand our fear of it. Freud called it the death drive, a silent pull toward self-destruction that balances our instinct for life. Ernest Becker, in The Denial of Death, argued that human civilization itself is a defense mechanism, a grand distraction from our mortality. Why do we build, love, fight, write, and create? Because we know, deep down, that we are. Death terrifies us not because of pain but because it erases our identity. The ego panics at the thought of becoming nothing. Yet many spiritual traditions say that very nothing is liberation. The end of ego is not the end of you, it is the end of your illusion. Meditative traditions train the mind to die consciously. They teach us to rehearse death every day by letting go of thoughts, labels, and identity. To live well is to die daily. Is death just a change of form? What if death is not destruction, but transition? Not a vanishing, but a energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. This law, embedded in physics, echoes the teachings of mystics who say that the solar consciousness simply changes frequency, from matter to light, from body to being. Many traditions speak of subtle Buddhist layers of existence beyond the physical. These include the astral body, the causal body, the soul. At death, it is said, the denser layers drop away, revealing more refined levels of awareness. Some clairvoyants and mystics claim to witness these transitions. Others speak of guiding lost souls, or encountering entities in other dimensions. While these accounts lack scientific proof, they persist across ages and continents. Perhaps they are all describing the same thing from different vantage points. What the dying teach us in hospice care, a strange transformation often takes place. People near death become calm, radiant. Some report visions of ancestors, light beings, or heavenly landscapes. Others simply become silent, as if preparing for a journey. What's most striking is how many lose their fear. The struggle ends. Acceptance rises. This suggests something powerful. Perhaps the ego fears death more than the soul does. Perhaps the deeper part of us already knows what to do. The Tibetan Book of the Dead instructs practitioners to prepare for death as a sacred passage. Mantras, rituals, and visualizations are used not to delay death but to guide consciousness through it. Even in modern medicine, palliative care acknowledges the spiritual dimension. Music, prayer, and storytelling help the dying let go. What if we all lived like that, aware that each day might be our last, and treating death not as an interruption, but as part of the design? Is rebirth real, or just a story to ease the pain? Reincarnation is one of the oldest ideas in human history, found in Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and even some ancient Greek thought. It suggests that we live many lives, each shaped by the consequences of the last. Skeptics call it wishful thinking, but cases like that of Shanti Devi, a girl in 1930s India who remembered her past life with uncanny detail, have made some reconsider. Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist, documented over 2,500 such cases. Children who recall previous lives, birthmarks corresponding to old wounds, phobias with no explanation in this life, coincidence, or fragments of memory carried across lifetimes. Whether or not rebirth is real, the metaphor is powerful. It reminds us that our actions ripple forward, that we are threads in a vast, unseen tapestry. So where do we go after death? No one can say for sure. Not science, not scripture, not even the sages. But perhaps that's the beauty of it. Because if we knew, we might stop asking. And in asking, we stay alive to the mystery. What we do know is this: the life you live before that final breath shapes what follows. Your thoughts, your intentions, your love, your fear, they echo beyond you. So live well, love deeply. And when your time comes, don't be afraid after all. It may not be the end. It might just be the beginning of something far more infinite.